So then, here goes, the finale not just of this series, but of Jodie Whittaker's tenure of Doctor Who. So, let's take a look at the balls to the wall reference fest, the power of the Doctor. The story opens with a nice pre-titles where we first see the Cybermen. Look, I'm just going to call them Cybermen, alright? Anyway, one thing I will say about this story is that in my opinion, it does a good job at introducing the villains one at a time. I particularly like John Bishop in this sequence, especially as it's his penultimate scene, but onto that in a minute. Following the titles, we have an annoyingly short scene set in Siberia in 1916, where we see the silhouette of Rasputin. Once again, more on that in a minute. But then, bang, Ace appears on the scene, and then a minute later, so does Tegan. Now, if it sounds like I'm rattling through it a bit quick, well, I'm going through it at about the pace the story does. In the following scene, Dan decides for some reason to leave, and when he buggers off, some Dalek makes a hologram of itself in the TARDIS. This Dalek tells the Doctor that she could destroy all the Daleks if she met the Dalek somewhere, and then it clears off. The TARDIS then goes red, which I think makes the interior look better, but hey, you can't polish a turd. The Doctor, up to this point, is trying to find that child that disappeared with the Cybermen in the pre-titles. Then we discover in the next scene that Rasputin is actually the Master in disguise. We also get a nice reference to Delgado's Master, where the Master hypnotises the people in the room to obey him. The scene that follows contains a bunch of techno-babble which flew over my head completely, and then a Cyberman turns up and tells the Doctor to clear off, so she heads back to unit. This is quite a nice scene actually, where Tegan and Ace meet the 13th Doctor. Then the Doctor and Yaz head over to Naples, where the Master is posing as a seismology expert. After a nice back and forth, the Master gets captured and gets taken back to unit. With Tegan and Ace having both met the Master before, specifically the Ainley incarnation, there are some nice references here, with the Master referencing Auntie Vanessa, Tegan's aunt, who the Master killed in Legopolis, and Ace referencing survival. The Doctor then lands under a volcano in Bolivia, and she meets the rogue Dalek, but she gets caught by some other Daleks and is forced to sit in the casing. The casing gets transported back to 1916, where the Master tells the Doctor he is going to force her to regenerate using Time Lord technology. This is a reference back to the War Games, where Troughton's Doctor was forced to regenerate. A few scenes later, it does happen. The Doctor regenerates into the Master. I couldn't quite believe it when it happened. Dwan is a great Master, particularly in this story. A few scenes later, once again, we see the Master in a hodgepodge of Doctor's outfits, and then pulling out Troughton's famous recorder. But the scene that follows is an absolute classic. We see Jodie in her dark outfit, in a desolate landscape. The camera pans up, revealing David Bradley's first Doctor, followed by Colin Baker, then Peter Davison, then Paul McGann, and then finally Sylvester McCoy. They are excellent in this scene. McCoy and Davison return later as holograms, talking to their respective companions. At the same time this is happening, Cybermen are invading the unit base. Ace decides to escape off the roof with a parachute, where she dons her original jacket. She still looks amazing in it. She leaps off the roof, and Yaz picks her up in the TARDIS. Tegan decides to stay back and try and defeat the Cybermen. Then Davison shows up, in his original costume, as a hologram. He speaks to her, and then they of course name drop Adric, who of course died at the end of Earthshock, thanks in part to the Cybermen. The TARDIS then lands under the Bolivian volcano, and Ace, baseball bat in hand, nips off to try and find some Daleks to beat up. Ace hides and pulls out a can of souped up Nitro 9, where Sylvester McCoy, once again in costume, appears as a hologram on screen. I still can't quite believe it. Ace jumps down, and suddenly Graham's arrived. We all kind of knew this was going to happen in the episode, but it was still a shock to me when it happened. I quite like this little back and forth between the two characters, and Bradley Walsh is great as usual. The TARDIS lands back in 1916, where the Master gets forced back into the machine, where the Doctor regenerated into him. This is thanks to the appearance of Joe Martin's wonderful fugitive Doctor. Joe Martin always steals the show, and I can't wait for her newly finished audios. The Master then changes back into the Doctor using the regeneration energy from the Cyber Masters. Back at unit, Tegan defeats the Cybermen, somehow. Honestly, I still have no idea how. Back under the volcano, we probably get my favourite moment of the episode, where Ace beats up a Dalek with her baseball bat, just like she did in Remembrance of the Daleks. Graham then blows it up with a can of Nitro 9. Some classic stuff there. The TARDIS lands and Ace and Graham escape. The TARDIS then lands on Earth just as the unit base explodes. I love Janet in this scene. She feels exactly like she did back in those 80s classics. I've realised I haven't mentioned Vinder's appearance in this episode. Then the Doctor uses the two TARDISes to stop the volcanoes because of some other technobabble that I couldn't understand. But then we reach the final act of the episode. The Doctor goes out and talks to the big tentacle thing and tells it to disintegrate the planet, not realising that she is actually standing on the planet that she is just asked to be destroyed. The Master then gets the tentacle monster thing to kill the Doctor. Now, this annoyed me. The whole thing about the Master and the Doctor is that they used to be friends, and that if they had the chance, they would never actually kill each other. So this seems to have gone out the window for this moment, but that's an interesting thing to think about. Yaz then runs out and carries the Doctor back into the TARDIS. Now, let's skip to the end, because there isn't much else to talk about. Yaz gets dropped off, and Dan and Graham are looking for a place. Then suddenly, it is revealed they go into a group with past companions. Ian Chesterton of the first Doctor era is in attendance, as well as Joe Grant, Mel, and of course Ace and Tegan. This is a lovely and touching scene. Then the regeneration itself. I think it might be my favourite modern regeneration. It's not too drawn out like Tennant's and has an air of Eccleston's. Then, bang, David Tennant appears, doing his classic "what" cliffhanger. And man, what a cliffhanger it is. All in all, this was a fun episode. The story, while not entirely making sense most of the time, I did like it. I definitely preferred the latter half of it due to it making a little bit more sense, but if this is the last TV appearance of Ace, I'm happy with her inclusion in this episode. Thanks Ace, and well done Sophie Aldred for playing her character so well across the years.